Mic. Camera. Action.
Why are you swimming with the Meg, Jimmy? I'm conducting an experiment.
Is the experiment, do I taste good?
就你疯啦！
It's okay. I've been training high tea since he was a pup.
A Meg is not trainable, Jumeng. But if you wanna be eaten in front of your niece, go ahead.
$50 says this is gonna end badly.
I'll take that action.
I am all in for Team Shark.
What? You can't bet on a shark, man. That's a bad karma. Come on, guys, focus. It's not cool.
Jumeng, I'd like to respectfully suggest that this is truly a terrible idea. Megs and humanity were never meant to mix.
Welcome back to the Filmography, the show dedicated to watching every credited film from an actor's complete back catalogue, from past debut through to present day in chronological order. Each episode, I'm joined by an esteemed guest to watch and discuss the next entry from their focused filmography and consider how it ranks amidst their career and whether we can trace any typecasting trends or topic traits or theatrical tics. For episode 44, I'm joined by podcast chums Mike and Megan to discuss the 44th big screen appearance of the Stath in the Trench-mendous sequel, Meg 2. We watch, you listen, and hopefully watch along too. So, my magnificent friends, do you agree that, to quote the Stath, Megs and humanity were never meant to mix?
Well, I mean, in the sense of what, the film,
in
or
a sense of the big sharks.
Yeah, or this Megan.
Otherwise, bye to me.
I mean, with this film, I mean, it's corny as hell, but I did enjoy it. But I want to say with the title, it's weird because the first one's called The Meg, but the second one isn't called The Meg 2. It's just called Meg 2. So I thought they could either call it Meg 2 The Trench, Meg 2 The Electric Boogaloo, or Meg 2 Magnificent, or even bigger and meggier.
Bigger and meggier.
I didn't write that one down because I thought it was so bad I couldn't commit it to page.
Jeez.
But that'd be too ham. That'd be like, Piranha 3 Double D, which I haven't seen. I've seen Piranha 3D, which is excellent, but
I guess it's because in the Meg, it's the one, and then obviously the twist is that there's a bigger Meg.
Well,
whereas in this film, there are lots of Megs.
Well, don't they call it Meg 2, the Meganing, or just Megs? Just call it Megs.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I was thinking because it has some aliens references in this, definitely. So it should have been Megs, really.
And you have what you do in the trailer. You go Meg. He says like, "Oh, there's not one Meg. There's some Megs," and it comes up, and then the S spins and becomes a 2.
Oh, nice! Look at
So
that.
do it. Yeah.
Where were you when they were doing the marketing for this?
I was really busy, I'm a busy guy. They contacted me and I was like, you guys have got this. I'm sure you'll do fine. But they did reach out, to be fair. So, it was on me. Sorry, guys.
Now the world is disappointed. But I mean, the trailer, as you've watched, you said just before that, the trailer's pretty good for this, actually. I think it whets the appetite for what you get in the overall movie quite well.
We saw, when this was coming out, was it last? When did this release? Because
2023, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember when we were going to the cinema? It might have been a period where I was also going with Alex and stuff, but there were so many films that we saw the Meg 2 trailer, over and over, or it might have been YouTube or something.
Yeah.
We saw the Meg 2 trailer several times.
Yeah.
But did you see the Meg 2 at the cinema?
I did see the Meg 2 at the cinema, yes.
Oh, nice.
I went out my way to go by myself to go and see Meg 2 at the cinema because nobody wanted to go and see it with me.
I mean, to be fair, I love going to the cinema by myself. I don't do it that often because it's quite rare. If Megan goes away for anything, then I often do podcasting work or read a book or something. But there have been a few films when Furiosa came out. I was like, I really would like to see that, but there's just time wise. We've got time before we go away to get married to see Deadpool 3. We've booked the tickets a few days before we go away. Megan was resistant. I was like, I can't go to all through America and go to Disney World and not have seen Deadpool 3 because everything about it is going to get completely ruined. So
that is probably true. Yeah. And I'm with you. I'm perfectly happy to go to cinema by myself. I mean, middle-aged and grumpy and would rather sit on my sofa. The things that stop me going to the cinema, not going by myself.
No, of course. But yeah, I mean, Meg 2, I thought the trailer looked cool. But to be fair, the trailer is a bit misleading because I think one of the criticisms you heard of this film is the first half of it is not really about sharks.
I did find the first half quite not boring, but I think I got snoozy.
We watched it in
which
two
is
parts, didn't
standard for me. I said I need to stop it now because otherwise I'm just going to keep falling asleep. So I think I did start to drift, but I much preferred the second half that we watched to the first half. I think the first half is quite slow.
I think it's totally fair. It sort of follows the same pattern as the first movie, doesn't it? In that it's setting up the characters. It's a kind of not a side quest, but it's something not massively involving sharks for a little while, isn't it? And then you get the big scene at the end when the Meg finally starts chomping on some people.
Yeah, I mean, I when the Meg stuff is in it, it's very cool. And, you know, the couple of Megs, and then there's an even bigger Meg and stuff. And it's like, the film is fun. And the first half, I was like, this feels quite a bit weaker. But then I think it's, for me, this film to the Meg is almost like Matrix Reloaded to the Matrix. Which sounds like an odd comparison, but I like Matrix Reloaded almost as much as the Matrix. But the film is almost objectively worse. The plot is worse, lots of other things are worse. But there's a couple of scenes that are so good, they're so cool that it really elevates it for me. You know, like the very iconic motorway scene in Matrix 2. Like that's so good, it elevates the whole film. Whereas, and with the Meg 2, I'm like, yeah, the first half's a bit, and I think the dialogue's potentially intentionally more hammy, and it's just a bit like eye-rolly kind of stuff. But then I think that some of the really cool stuff that happens is over the top, and you have to kind of believe this is stupid and makes no sense. But once you kind of, the suspension of disbelief, because you found that with some of the jet ski stuff.
The jet ski stuff. Oh, it was just ridiculous.
I liked it. I thought it was great.
I was like, I think I said this is like Jason Statham if he had taken steroids or if he was on cocaine. Like, it was like Jason Statham to the max. Like,
I said that's what Crank is, and that was too much for you.
Yeah, but it's a different kind of Jason Statham. But like it was just the jet ski scenes were a bit too much for me. I was just like, this is just ridiculous. Like, there was the one where he chomped down, and then he was riding the wave on the jet ski, and I was just like, oh, that wave is massive. Like, it wouldn't it wouldn't do that.
When the fuel goes out, when he runs out of fuel, and then he ignites it just as the shark, and you out loud just went, fuck off. Just straight away.
Yeah.
But the bit where he's like, riding the wave in slow motion, he's got like the explosive thing in the air, and he like throws it down and blows him up. And I was like, I'm up for this. I'm
brilliant.
win.
I thought it was cool. It's just to the max, isn't it?
It is.
It's the max, and I think you're right. It's knowing, isn't it? It knows what it's doing. It's kind of a Looney Tunes cartoon, but it's people and CGI sharks, isn't it? But I think it's fascinating because Ben Wheatley, the guy who directed this, is just so not this genre, really. I don't know if you know his work, but clearly he just went all in on this. And as you said, Megan, I'm going to take the Stath to the max. I'm going to make this the most Statham-y, Stather that I can.
I think it's the three Staths. It's Crank Stath, Spy Stath, and Meg Stath.
Meg Stath.
And Meg Stath is very similar to Fast and Furious. Kind of the character itself is different, but the kind of the actiony strength of it all, what he can get away with is pretty. Because you go like, he's just a marine biologist, and then he just beats
I know
everyone, and you're like,
he's like
he's
a deep sea rescue diver, isn't he? And then suddenly now he's a parkour expert. He's a ninja fighter. He's they call him what? He's like a green James Bond or something, but green not meaning new, meaning like eco. He's like an eco warrior.
Eco Bond. Yeah, it's one of those where it's like when the guy Montez, I think his name is, he's big, and he reminds me, I think, that the kind of characters that Danny Trejo has played, where it's
nice,
like that kind of, and I was like, brilliant, I love these kind of characters, go for it. And then I didn't like the weird kiss that felt really forced, but that meant nothing immediately. But it was like after that, Montez kissed the Jess, I think it was. But then she immediately gets eaten, so cool. But like, you think, he's gonna be a match for the Stath. He's so much bigger. His job is literally like a mercenary. He's kind of the head of a mining operation, but he's also a mercenary thing. But I was like, it's going to be a match for the Stath. And the Stath just whoops his ass every single time. And it's just like he's a mild inconvenience, like a slight hurdle. And every time he comes up, he's like, I have to take over this guy again. And then just beats him up, takes him out. And like, right, now I can get back to typing on a computer or whatever it is I'm doing. And it's like, okay, so Statham is fighting a shark with a jet ski and also can just beat up anyone easily as well.
Well, I mean, At this point in his career, yes. But this has definitely been retooled to be more of a Jason Statham vehicle than the Meg was. The Meg was a shark movie with Jason Statham in it. This is a Jason Statham movie with Megs in it. That's what's happened, isn't it? In between the two movies, I think.
Yeah. But what did you think of the lack of sharks? Because obviously Megan, you wanted more Megs, didn't you? You want the next film to be so many Megs.
I don't really know what I was expecting, to be honest. Like the big sharks are out now, so like I don't really. I think I was just anticipating more, but as you said, it's the same layout as the first film. Like it's kind of like obviously a completely different genre, but it's like 21 Jump Street and 22 Jump Street are essentially the same film.
Yeah. And they're both great.
Yeah, and they're both good. I enjoy them both, and I enjoy both of these films both. But yeah, as you said, it's just the setup, isn't it? Like they can't just have Megs out straight from the beginning, because otherwise what are you leading up to?
Yeah, it's that classic feature thing, isn't it, where like you save all the stuff for the third act, don't you? Which is why you get those, I can't even think what they're called, but you get those little like prehistoric dinosaur snappers, I think. You get those in the trench, don't you? And that can go, those amphibious creatures that have lived in the trench for millions of years that are also have not developed, that they can't go on land anymore after millions of years. That's right. Yeah,
they can not only survive the pressure change, as well as not only the pressure change.
Because those little lizard things aren't that big, really, are they? Like they're big for lizard things, but they're not.
No, but they're the size of like they're bigger than what Willow is. So they're like small. They're like dog size.
Yeah, no, I know, but they're still not massive. Like
but
as you're saying, the pressure change, like.
No, but the pressure change, as they say, when Stath has to swim through the thing, it's like it's all about change and stuff. So you can kind of get away with that a bit. But if you've been things that exist and they've been born under huge amounts of pressure for long periods of time, and then suddenly go somewhere which is a change of temperature, a change of pressure, and then also to breathe air. There's only like one or two species of fish that exist that can breathe air, and they don't live below the Mariana Trench. But
that you are aware of.
It just, if they've never, as Jack said, they've been there for so many millions of years, you're like, they can't. But again, I'm trying to put logic.
Yeah, who cares?
And it's like, to be fair, I was watching it going, this is dumb, but I was like, but to be fair, at least they're not safe on land anymore. So it's kind of, it adds a bit. But it becomes basically, I think this film and the next film are basically Jurassic Park. But
100%, yeah.
Which I'm fine with, you know. I'm all up for that kind of thing. But it is literally just, and Jurassic Parks are basically just slasher movies, but instead of with, a person, instead it's, lots of dinosaurs. So, which I'm fine with.
Yeah. And I think your Fast reference was right. I mean, they're kind of this mystery brother out of nowhere. That's like soap operas and Fast and the Furious. The fact that everybody suddenly, like DJ suddenly now a ninja as well. And that's very Fast and Furious. But the opening is kind of the Expendables and the middle part is Aliens. And then you're right, the last part is Jurassic Park, Jurassic World. It's very... But I think all of that is, as we've said, and we'll probably continue to say, it's all very knowing. It's just, let's push this to the max. Let's have fun. Let's see what we can get away with almost. How big can we make the octopus? That big? Oh, great. Let's make it that big then.
To be fair, I'm a sucker for octopuses.
Oh.
I mean, octopuses are so cool just as beings. They're so amazingly weird and different. And so anytime it's like, to be fair, I think actually a giant octopus would probably be a lot scarier than a giant shark. I mean, the shark would be scarier initially, but if you have to compete against, like a shark in a boat, if the shark can't eat the boat, it can basically nudge into it. An octopus can literally grab it and drag it underwater, and the sucker things
and
can
also
crush
they
things.
can like shrink down to really small sizes and like
camouflage
and camouflage, but they can like slide on through really tiny little gaps, can't they?
And they can breathe in and out of. Well, I think when they leave water, I think they can like hold water by their gills or something. Because
I don't know enough about octopi to.
I think it's. Yeah, I think it's octopi or octopodes. I don't know. Octopuses. They're all,
Clearly, I don't know enough
I don't
about
know the
them.
etymology of where that word comes from, whether it's which one. I thought it was cool. I mean, I did think, surprisingly, the CGI in this film, for the most part, was actually, like, for how much there was, it actually looks pretty damn good for the most part. Like, considering there's the parts at the first sort of half of the film when they're walking at the bottom and there's the glowing plants and all that stuff, I was like, this actually does look really good. I don't know if it will in several years' time, but I was surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a sizable budget. It's 139 million, but it's not, Avengers. It's not Fast and Furious, as it turns out. That was the last one cost over 300 million. So
Jesus.
Yeah, 140 is not to be sniffed at, but then when the last movie made 500, they can afford it, can't they? So yeah, I agree. I thought it looked really great, and actually, I watched a few behind the scenes stuff today, and things like the trench sequence, they did put a lot of thought into, like how the actors were walking, because obviously they weren't actually underwater, but how the actors were they were put on like wires, so they would have that kind of lean forwards and like weights in their shoes, and so there was a lot of, we were talking about the lengths Nolan goes to in Interstellar to speak to theoretical physicists and to make sure if wormholes interacts with spaceships, this is what would actually happen, and and then the time delays and all that kind of stuff. Well, they've not gone to that extent here, but they've taken some effort to actually make it look like these characters are down there under the sea, at least.
Yeah, I agree. Because with these films, Megan, out of interest, I've got to say at least once, like you generally don't like action films quite as much, as for example, like I think I quite like them. I know, Jack and a lot of the other members of Comics in Motion, etc., absolutely love, like, there's ridiculous action films like grindhousey stuff like Machete and things like that, which I adore, Planet Terror, etc. But then there's other things which are like, there's Tarantino style action, which is like intense, short, like, because you didn't like Kill Bill that much.
I did not like Kill Bill, but that's just too much physical.
But that's the thing,
violence that I don't like.
Do you like this because it's almost cartoony? As
I think, I don't really. I don't know. You're comparing Kill Bill, which is like.
Yeah, it was a poor comparison, but just action films in general. Like, you're never.
I don't mind action movies.
Yeah, you don't mind them. That's what I mean. Like, but what about this one? Because you like this and the Meg. So, what do you like about them?
I don't know. I just think they're different. You don't. There's like in the grand scheme of things, there aren't that many shark films.
Yeah,
like,
I think it's probably 10 people could name.
Ultimately, there aren't that many shark movies, whereas there are an absolute ton of films like Kill Bill, like John Wick, like any film that is kind of within that realm of like.
Yeah, Revenger.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Like, there's hundreds of films like that. Whereas for me, I haven't seen that many shark movies. I love the water anyway, even though obviously the idea of going into the water and there being a ton of sharks isn't probably the best idea. But like, I don't know. I enjoy these films. The action's okay. I don't know.
You're there for the quips and the Stath.
I like the quips. I mean, it's not even so much like I'm there waiting for Jason Statham to come out topless.
I think me and Jack are, to be honest with you.
Very disappointed in this movie.
I don't even think there was a scene like that in this film,
no.
was there? Like,
if I think the
shower scene.
Yeah. And he's wearing a bloody t-shirt. What's he doing?
You'd think that with the sequel, you'd get full frontal nudity. You think you got to take it bigger. You got to take it bigger, Stath.
Now, if there were a willy, got to free the willy.
Yeah, this is only I think it's only a 12 again, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, I mean,
I didn't intentionally do that. But
really?
Yeah, no.
Oh, that was very clever.
That was an unintentional pun there, everyone. You're welcome.
Very nice. Very nice. I just think about because obviously the first one there's the shower scene. Yeah, we don't get that at all. We don't get any skin on the.
Well, I guess it's because there's not really there's not a love interest in this film. It's about his relationship with the.
Yeah,
it's about his relationship with her as opposed to a romantic relationship.
That's interesting. That's definitely. Well, that is true, but I think that's a good argument for why we don't get any Stath skin. I mean, there's all kinds of things. Isn't there? There's the 12A rating, and I did read that he was a bit disappointed. They kind of cycled back. There wasn't that much bloody gore in the first one, but they cycled it back here a little bit. There's also the international markets, isn't there? We know these are being made and co-funded for Western and Eastern audiences, aren't they? So they've got that concern, and I think that explains a lot of why Juming, their now new brother, is so heavily involved in the action, because we've got the Stath for the Western audiences and we've got Juming for the Eastern audiences. But that's fascinating, Megan. I hadn't thought about that idea of like there's no in the movie there's no woman to appeal to, so that's cut out of the film all entirely. Yeah,
there's no need to make it sexy, because like I think it would feel out of place if there was a random sexy scene. Like when he was in the shower, it obviously was there because she walks past and like has a second take, doesn't she? And like they're having a conversation. Whereas in this film, there's no need for there to be a sultry moment because there's no romantic interest.
Yeah, I do like that element, but I will say, Jack, with what you said about the sort of, it felt trying to appeal to, I mean, there are Eastern audiences, but I think it is quite heavily China. I think, because there's a lot of...
It's Chinese funded, yeah.
Well, that's it, because like the last film was very much like that. It's like, China's come and saved the day, and it's like, don't hear that very often. So it's one of those things, and in this film, it did feel, it makes it sound like I have an issue with the Asian or Chinese cinema. I don't. It's just in this film, it didn't always feel natural. It was just like, what are we gonna do? And it was like Evero took place in China and all this sort of stuff, and I was like, it's fine, but it did feel like the film was funded by it. When you get films sometimes where there's like a lot of product placement, or there's a lot of, they did it. There's loads and loads of London scenes just kind of pushed in here. Why is that? Well, it turns out that some UK production company was contributed to the budget or something, and okay, let's put it. So it did feel a little bit like that. But I do prefer, back to Mei Ying, because I'm jumping all over the place, I did very much like the relationship dynamic change. It was, I wrote down that I like the fact, initially when Mei Ying's mother, whose name escapes me,
Suyin, when she passed away off screen, I was like, that feels a bit fridging. But then when I saw, actually, they only really did that so you don't have to deal with a grieving child trying to deal with, process everything while an emergency goes on, and then they have to deal with both things at once. It was like, right, it was a couple of years ago. She's dealt with that. She's now healing, and Jonas, aka Jason Statham, is an integral part of the healing process. He's there as a support network. She genuinely loves him and cares about him, and they've got a really good rapport. So I was like, actually, I quite like the fact that you've had a time jump and she's died off screen. If you had to, maybe she didn't want to come back, I don't know, or if they just didn't ask her. Yeah, it's a mystery. I tried to research into it, and nobody's ever really come out and said why. It's just she's not back, and there's, for whatever reason, nobody wants to say why, whether she wasn't interested or they chose to write her out. I mean, we discussed that she was okay in the first one. Maybe they didn't feel like they had good enough chemistry and they didn't want to bother carrying that on. I don't know, but I think they deal with it. It's odd, isn't it? It's an odd moment in the movie, but they have to deal with it in some way. But I think, as you said, I agree. The way the story then carries on past that point, you sort of forget immediately.
Yeah. And I think it works. Like I liked. I mean, the brother coming into it, he should have died so many times.
The brother coming into it felt kind of forced. It felt like they had to do it because of whatever reason that the actress wasn't in the film, because it just kind of seemed out of place that there was suddenly this other person that is of same like intelligence and like wealth and
never
all of
mentioned
this
the
stuff,
last film,
and has never been mentioned at all.
No.
And there's just kind of some throwaway line about how he and his dad didn't have a very good relationship and they hadn't spoken for a while, and then he was like suddenly like, now I'm going to take on his life's work, and I'm like, but I don't understand. There's no consistency. That felt out of place. It felt very forced. But
I bet they really
didn't mind the
killing
character.
the dad off in the first one.
Yeah,
because if he was still alive, then they could have just carried on with him, couldn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those. Just ignore her. She's being a nightmare, and
I think he's quite a well-known actor. I think as well, and it's 100% that. Do you know what I mean? When you have China putting in so much money, and actually, as we discussed in the first one, a lot of the box office of the first one came from Chinese audiences as well. From a cynical point of view, I totally get you've got to make sure that audience continues to be interested in your product. And again, Chinese audiences brought a lot to the box office for this one as well.
Yeah, it was the same with Transformers, wasn't it? Wasn't it the most recent, not Bumblebee, in the one before that in the kind of collection? The last, I don't think it was the one with the animals. I think it was the one before that. The whole last third of the film was all in China, I think.
Yeah.
Subtitles, which is fine, but it was just like, suddenly the whole vibe of the film's changed. And it's because Chinese audiences. It's like, well, I guess if it makes the film succeed better, as long as it doesn't overtly ruin the plot. Like, I didn't feel like this film was ruined by it being in China or anything, because it didn't actually make that much difference. It just kept getting mentioned, and I was like, you don't normally mention where you are this many times, but okay. But I can't. The brother. I just thought they kept faking out his death.
They did do it a
3
lot.
times, and then he survived by the end, didn't he? And you're like, okay, you've just been. You're basically, it's almost like every time Statham gets in danger, he then has to also get into danger, and maybe even worse danger, and then get out of it. And you're like, okay.
I agree. It's a bit silly, but also that's where that knowing stuff comes in, because they talk about it in movie.
Right.
So the Stath at one point says, doesn't he, like, well, do you want to get yourself killed? And then later on, he's like, now you're back in danger again. And so they keep referring back to it. So I think they sort of know what they're doing. So it allows you just to get on board with the silliness of it.
Yeah. What do you think of him?
Yeah, I thought he was fine. I thought he was all right. I thought it was nice that he had a relationship with the shark. No, the shark.
Oh, yeah. Haichi.
Yeah, well, yes, I do think it was nice that he had a relationship with his niece. But I thought it was the aspect of the Meg being able to somehow be trained to a certain extent, or at least be able to recognize the person that's been like dealing with her the most. I thought that was cool. And I thought with that as well, there was a lot of comedy, like little like comedic elements to it. Like at the end where obviously he was like, oh, she listened to me. And then I think, I can't remember what Jason Statham says. He says something.
Oh, there's a pod of dolphins.
He was there was a pod of dolphins that went past. Like, no. He's like, no, she understands. She's my friend. We have a special connection.
Yeah. And I like the ambiguity where it is kind of like, did it actually make an impact?
I think it did because they zoomed in on the eyes to indicate that the shark had gone from bad to good.
Yeah, but it's...
I say bad to good, like...
that's exactly what it is, Megan. You're absolutely right.
After killing God knows how many people, is that? Yeah. And trying to kill him earlier as well.
Yeah.
And then it just went, you know what, I've killed a lot of people today, and I've kind of got it out of my system, so I won't get you. But I'll get the dolphins. It's like, what? Oh, okay. Lucky man.
No, I know where you're going to backtrack there, Megan, but I think you're absolutely right, because it's keep this as simple as possible for the audiences, because the end really bothers me as well. They're on the beach and like, whoo, we survived. And I know you have to have that like, whoo, we survived that. Can you believe it kind of moment in these movies? And all the audience is going, no, you would definitely all be dead. But obviously they're in the movies, they have to survive. And they're like drinking and cheering and I don't know what they're sharing. They've got a drink they're sharing, the stuff that DJ's got in his bag. And my brain just can't switch off. And I'm thinking like, all these people in Fun Island are dead. Your friends are dead.
Yeah.
And this has all happened in like a day or two. Haichi's swimming out in the sea somewhere, killing who and God knows what. But yeah, let's just stop and have a break and a drink and a laugh. Why not?
Yeah, I do find stuff like that bizarre. There's quite a few like series, like TV series, I think that we've discussed before, which I don't want to say in case it spoils anything. But like, yeah, I feel very underwhelmed with stuff like that, and then it kind of takes me out of it a smidge because I'm like, yeah, okay, cool, you've survived, but like you would be fucking traumatized.
Yeah,
like you wouldn't be chill about it. You would be like in hysterics. Like I would be bawling my eyes out, like just out of pure like, oh Christ, like it's over for the time being.
Well, the
like,
release
breathe.
of like, the adrenaline come out of your body, you would just collapse, wouldn't you? Like you say, you just go into hysterics, or you just would collapse into unconsciousness, or 100%.
Yeah, it would be a bit too much. I realised I forgot to mention right at the start, partly because I keep mentioning bits and flicking around the whole film, but right at the start with like the dinosaur CGI bit, I was like, that part was the thing that made me go, is this Jurassic Park? Because actually, it wasn't as good to see, CG or anything like that, but I was like, okay, this has come out of... But I think it's just the kind of... A lot of action films have to do it, isn't it? It's like, right, audiences, either we perceive them to be like this, or this might be the case. Audiences of action films, if they don't get intense action within the first 25 minutes, they won't want to watch the rest. So there's a really big action scene to begin with, to set the scene. Someone gets killed, or a briefcase gets taken, or a giant shark comes out and eats a dinosaur 65 million years ago, and then you get into, now we can kind of build up the plot without having to have an action scene in the first 20 minutes. But I was like, oh, that surprised me.
Yeah, that opening's really weird, and I think in my head what that should have been would have been like a little teaser trailer, because it is in the trailer and as well anyway. But like back in the day when they used to just almost like film something special just to get you to go and see the movie, but then they've tacked it on. I guess the only thing it does is explain that the snappers can be on land as well in the sea, because they're in that scene, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, that's a good
So
point,
we sort of need that for the end, don't we?
I forgot about that completely.
I guess is why we need it in the movie as well, because you can't rely on the fact that people would have seen it as like a teaser. But I think that would have been quite interesting. It would have just been like a standalone little thing.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Because they'll get a second opening anyway with the Stath on the cargo ship.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because that is a big action scene as well. I did like that scene. I thought it was cool, and good. It was showing Statham being a badass again, and it is like, it is interesting. It is the Fast and Furious syndrome, as you say, because I've got the notes that you mentioned earlier about DJ. Yeah, he's got the emergency kit, but I actually thought of all the character changes you get in these kind of action films, that actually makes complete sense. Like he couldn't swim, he couldn't fight, he was in situations with life or death, and he went, I've got a couple of years, I'm actually going to get good at this. And I was like,
fair play to you.
If I had that experience, I wouldn't go back to the job without anything extra, especially not being able to swim. Do you know what I mean? Like if you already had the experience with the Meg, which would traumatize you forever, and you're like, I'm going to go back to that job, or they're asking me back, you'd be like, at minimum, I need to be able to swim, but I should probably learn to take care of myself. And I was like, you know what, DJ, in the last film, he was just sort of comedy, but in this, I did find that
he is still comedy relief, but like he has a bit more agency to his character than just being comedy.
He saved.
He saved Is he Australian? Is he
Australian?
Oh,
Cliff Curtis. Yeah. The guy who's Jonas's best mate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forgot about him.
Mac.
About Cliff.
Yeah.
Mac.
Mac
is a co-host of Clone Wars Conversations. He's not in the Meg. Yeah, the characters, though, I did find that some of them fell into the background a bit. I feel like that you didn't... Some of them didn't really know what to do with. It was kind of like, we need the people for the first film, but not all the people. Not Jason Statham's ex-partner, which, and it was like, okay, we're not going to have her in it. We're not going to have certain people in it.
Ruby Rose, is that her name?
Yeah, she's not back, yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course, I forgot. I keep thinking of people... I think with films like this, like, also when watching the film, apart from like, the odd person, I'm like, did they die? Is that why they're not in it? Or did I?
He did not.
No,
I agree. I think... Obviously, Mac and DJ return, and Mac's been turned into a comedy sidekick as well. He was like the serious guy in the first one, and now he's like bumbling fool in this one. But of the new people, the only one I really remember is Regus, who's like the pilot of Jonas's submersible, who survives all the way to the end.
Yeah.
Everyone else, and it's not just because she survives. I think she has some good presence. She has some like charisma on character.
Oh yeah, she's the one that had to shoot him, and then she didn't, and then also tried to get them to leave without the brother that has appeared in this film, whose name I can't remember.
Yeah,
Jumi,
yeah. I remember her.
Yeah,
she's sort of memorable, but everyone else, they're just faces. They're just red shirts from Star Trek, aren't they?
Yeah.
But even like the baddie, so to speak, like the female
Montez.
baddie.
Which of the three?
Oh, Jess.
Yeah,
or do you mean the one that owns the company?
Oh,
because Jess, the glass
no, not the one that owns the company, the blonde one. Yeah, the one that works with them, that betrays them, that damages the thingy. And it's also just like kind of like not a cop out, but like as soon as she's like, "This glass is indestructible," it's like, "Well, you're going to die then, aren't you?" Obviously, I wasn't expecting her to die like that second, but I knew she was going to die because it's like in Titanic where he's like, "Oh, this boat can't sink." Blub, 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 blub. Like it's just it's the foreshadowing of it.
Was that what nod you off when you're watching Titanic? Did you think the boat was going to make it, and then you saw the captain do that, and you're like, "Oh my god!"
But a hell of a twist, Titanic. To be fair.
Could you imagine? No, I know how much you love Titanic, and specifically Jack.
Well, it's like Tarantino rewrites history, doesn't he, in his movies? So why not?
Oh yeah, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah. Oh, such a good film.
No, I agree. I think she's a bit nondescript, and also the fact that she's the one who's like doing things behind their back is really, really obvious.
Oh yeah, point blank obvious. As soon as they said, "Oh, there's a mole on the boat," I was like, "Well, it's going to be the blonde girl."
There's a shot, wasn't there, that you pointed
and then
out?
she's in shot. She's like raising her eyebrow, like, "Whoa, was it me?"
I like as soon as that happened, I was like, "Well, it's her then, isn't it, Mike?" I was like, "That's fairly
her
obvious."
At the foreground, and then slowly like panning and fading to the people behind her. They're talking about who could have done this. It's her like
she twirls her moustache.
Yeah. Let's an evil laugh. What was that? Oh, nothing. Is that kind of?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree. She's a bit non, and actually, the actress who plays the owner of the company, she's Sienna Gilroy. I think I'm saying her name completely wrong, but she's quite a well-known name. She's been an established British actress for a long time as well, and she's totally wasted in that role as well.
She was actually, I think, arguably the worst character. I blame partly the dialogue, but the bit where she goes, "Who's going to stop us?" Or like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna destroy part of the ocean."
I still didn't really understand what they were trying to do.
And they're like, "Who cares?" And when she said "Who cares" like that, I was like, "Was this like all of the script has been kind of hammy and stuff like that?" But that dialogue, I was like, "That is awful."
What were they actually trying to do? Like what were the baddies?
There's some minerals or
they're trying to
something
mine
that
for
are
a
mining,
mineral.
and it was like a handful.
Like Avatar,
of it,
isn't it?
Why are they always trying to get
Unobtainium.
unobtainium?
Yeah, but this is underwater unobtainium. H2 obtain. I can't do it. That was
I like
gonna be
the
a terrible pun.
H2 obtainium.
Yeah, that was. I mean, it was awful. And even if I got it out first time, that was atrocious. I'm sorry to the audience, back to filmography. I'm sorry to everyone for that, actually.
But again, it's a tropey thing, isn't it? Again, that's what made me think of Alien and Aliens, of like, the corporate greed. That's what's driving this. They don't care about the people or the environment. Or you're right, unobtainium and Avatar's another good reference. But I don't. Again, like with her, I kind of get there being this shadowy business figure in the background. But why the hell does she choose to travel to Fun Island at the end? She takes herself into the melee, into the trouble. Yeah. That decision makes no sense whatsoever.
But also, like, when you can hear the shooting in the back, she's like, go and check helicopter driver. Go and check what's going on where there's loads of shooting in the background. Like, surely the logical thing would be like, I can hear loads of shooting in the background. Should we fly up in the air and then we can look from above and see what's happening, and we'll see that there's a load of weird lizards. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, because everyone just gets wiped out, don't they? Like
they all get slaughtered.
Because I agree with you, Jack. I think she should have survived, and then she would have been a good baddie for the next one. And then she could have had some sort of big epic thing. But it was just like...
You stopped my plans, you dastardly people. Yeah, I will be back.
If Jess was like communicating to someone and you didn't know who they were, it was like a voice modulator thing, and they were always shadowy, and it was just the corporation. And you never know in this film. And then the third film, they could reveal it and have like a really big... like surprise review actor. Like I really like it in films where you've got a really big actor who has a tiny role, and it's like, I mean, to some degree Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder, but more so like Brad Pitt in Deadpool 2, where it's literally just a second, or something like that, where you could just have someone who's a shadowy voice modulator thing, and then right at the end they find out who it is and they're about to kill them, and it's revealed, and it's some like massive, like huge actor, like if it was Johnny Depp or someone, or like Leonardo DiCaprio or something, and just they're only there for genuinely like a few seconds. They say one line and they get pierced by a harpoon or something. Like, that would be so cool. But now they're just like, oh yeah, there's a Meg out there, and the shadowy corporation's all gone.
Yeah.
The one woman who seemingly controls it all has been eaten. Let's have a drink.
Nick Cage is the guy, I reckon.
That would be good.
He fits this well, doesn't he?
That would be so cool, actually. Yeah, and it's a voice modulator that makes it sound like it could be a woman. And so the whole time they're referring to the person as, "Oh, who is this? Shady. What's she doing?"
Nick Cage would get a drag fee. Don't you worry about that. He wouldn't.
I didn't mean he had to be, but like that would be a clever twist.
That.
Yeah, I would love that. But there's one thing I would highlight that we wrote down that Megan really liked, which was something in films that Megan really hates, a trope that Megan hates.
Not even in films, just in life. One of my biggest bugbears is when people make promises that they can't keep. So like in like Grey's Anatomy, for example. Like, there's an episode in one of the early... This makes it sound like I've watched Grey's Anatomy still. This is just something
You've seen quite a few seasons.
I have seen a few seasons. One of the earlier seasons, one of the interns basically promises someone that they'll keep their husband alive. And obviously, you can't make a promise like that. You can't keep a promise like that. Obviously, in the episode, that person then dies, and then there's like repercussions of it. What I like, and I really hate it in films, is when it's like, I'm going to make sure that nothing ever bad happens to you ever again. I promise. And I'm like, well, you can't keep that promise. In this, when Mei Ying is like talking to Jason Statham.
Jonas is the character.
Jonas.
It's Statham, isn't it?
When she's talking to him, she's like, can you promise me that you'll both come back alive? And Jason Statham does not promise. He just turns around and says, you know that I love you, right? And I was like, yes, mad respect to you, Jason Statham. Or rather, Jonas, you can't make a promise like that. And he did not make the promise. And it's like compassionate Stath.
Yeah, I love compassionate Stath.
I thought that was really good. And I know that that's a very niche thing that I particularly point out in TVs and films.
But it happens all the time.
But it does happen all the time.
Genuinely, once you notice it.
And it's really frustrating because it's always a trope. They'll always say, I promise this isn't going to happen. And then later on and down the line, it's going to happen because they've made that promise that they can't keep. So like in this film, I was like, okay, well, they're not going to die because he's not made the promise that they're going to come back alive, which I know that they're not going to die. But it's like, I don't know if it's just because I don't know. It's just
But
something.
it happens when we
It
watch films,
happens all the time,
it's
and
not
it does
just-
annoy me.
It's I promise I'll never hurt you. I promise no harm will come to you. I promise after I go on this mission I won't die.
Yeah.
And that's the worst one. Is I promise, like, Daddy, promise me you'll come back from the mission.
war.
Yeah, and you're like, and you
From
have
the
to
mission
say
into the black hole.
Yeah.
You'll be
exactly.
fine.
I'll be back for you. I promise.
Yeah,
And
it's because
Yeah.
from I can't even make Mike the promise that I'm never going to hurt him because I'm so clumsy. I trip over all the time. I'm gonna hurt him at some point because I'm gonna fall over and I'm gonna hurt him.
Yeah.
Like it's like I can't make any promises like that. I appreciated in this film that Jonas did not make a promise that he was going to come back alive, but he just said, "You know, I love you," and I was like, "Nah, that's nice. I like that."
And they continue to have a good relationship, don't they? It's the same actress coming back, and she's much more grown up. And it is funny because I think I forgot to mention in the first one, there's a whole like Jerry Maguire thing going on, isn't there, with him as Cuba Gooding Jr. says, and that like shoplifting the pootie. Well, like in that
We've not
first,
seen Jeremy.
I haven't seen
oh, sorry, okay, so
need to.
That's not spoiling anything. Basically, in that movie, I think it's invented for that movie. That phrase means like you're. I want to phrase this the right way. Like you have fallen for the child of somebody, if you know what I mean. Like you've fallen in love with them and you want to kind of be their surrogate parent.
Yeah.
But then that means because of that, you kind of have to go into a relationship with their mum
Right.
Yeah.
or
Okay,
their
okay.
dad
What's
or
the term
whoever.
that you said?
Shoplifting the pootie is how he calls it in that.
Shoplifting
The
the
pootie?
pootie.
Yeah.
That's weird. Pootie is not a word I would associate with
No.
parenthood and children. Really.
Feel free to Google it. It just comes up saying Jerry Maguire. So I think they made
I
it
trust
up
you.
for
I
that.
don't think you made that up. So-
Yeah. No. I mean, like, I don't think it's a saying. I think it's just they made it up for that movie, and that's definitely what happens in the Meg. It's like he falls for Mei Ying. He totally is in love with her as a surrogate figure, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I guess I'll get with Su Yin then. And it's really interesting. That obviously, it's a good thing because now he is her de facto only parent, so it's worked out quite well.
Yeah. I like the wholesome relationships of that. Like found family, I know is a theme that comes up like in Star Wars a lot. I know Rhea really likes found family sort of stories, and there's so many of them which work so well. And it is nice when you get like it's like in the animal world. Whenever Megan and I hear about there was a penguin baby that was orphaned, but then there were two penguins who couldn't have kids, and they've adopted the baby and things like that. I'm like, It makes me think of like everyone's almost like a puzzle and a puzzle piece at the same time. But these people have got like puzzles that have been missing from one reason or another. And it's nice when, I think that's what makes a good relationship, especially a romantic one, which is there's, in a way, not quite a part of you missing, but there's like a gap and someone can kind of fill it in that regard. And, when you've got it with Jason Statham, he's gruff, but he's got a heart of gold, that kind of thing. And he, at his age, although people older than him do have kids, it's kind of like he's not there to have to, have a baby and all that kind of other stuff. So he's kind of come in and he's get this nice parental thing. But I think it's quite the in thing. I know Mandalorian didn't start it, but there's so many, because The Last of Us, Mandalorian, and there's been a few others of just things coming out, which is like a gruff man who's normally middle-aged, who doesn't have a family or anything. Something really bad happened to him, and then he adopts this orphan. Basically, and it's quite a thing in the last sort of decade or so. I know it's been a thing before that, but it's quite in at the moment, and I'm a sucker for it.
Yeah, I mean, the State's done it a few times, and going back to classic, Lone Wolf and Cub is a classic kind of story of that sense, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. So maybe that's why you were saying about like puzzle pieces fitting, why Montez and Jess don't quite fit. Because I don't buy that moment at all. When he comes in, he's managed to. I love his escape, by the way, from the trench. When he, they've been struggling to get away from this underwater station, haven't they? And they eventually figure a way out. And then in his submersible, and he's like, "Oh well, I'll just get in my suit and cut the weight and just float up. What's the problem?" I love that. And then he comes in, doesn't he? And he grabs Jess and they have a kiss and a moment together. Yeah, I didn't buy that they were a couple at all either.
That was a really aggressive kiss as well. It didn't look like she was into it. It looked like he just grabbed her and just went at it. I was like, I like kind of pulled back a bit. I was like, okay. And then she, after the kiss, seemed to be okay with it. And I was like, I didn't get that vibe when you entered the room. And then she gets eaten by a shark. And I'm like, guess I'll never know.
Yeah, it's true.
He does cry, so clearly they were in love.
Yeah,
he does cry. It's true. A villain with a heart of gold as well.
Apart from when he's like, overtly murdering people. But,
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of a pointless character, isn't he? I don't really need that subplot of that he got put in prison because one of Jonas's other eco warrior missions he was in charge of, wasn't he? So he got him caught, and now he's out for revenge. And he is a bit like a Bond villain. He definitely wants to be. You mentioned who did you mention, Mike? You said he was a bit
Danny
like
Trejo.
Danny Trejo. I was thinking like he really wants to be Javier Bardem.
Yeah. I get that. But I mean, from no one can be Javier Bardem from No Country for Old Men. You can't. Can't really replicate that. But I think a lot of people want to. It's like that. But he wasn't doing stoic and like completely calm. He was a bit more. He was more emotional, a bit more unhinged. But I just thought if they kind of made him seem like, again, I said it earlier, where like he's Statham's rival and they're going to fight. Look at all his muscles, and then he was like, no, he just gets his ass whooped. And you're like, I mean, I'm here for it. Watching one. I mean, John Wick. I adore all 4 John Wick movies, and the 4th one's probably my favorite. And it's like just watching someone who is just so much more overpowered than everyone else. I love that, but I kind of want them to either. I'm sure we'll get on to what we'd want from a third one if they make it, but I just want them to go even more in for Statham, where he's just like untouchable. Like no one could even like he goes up like 10 Montezes fight him, and he just like beats them all. Like I if they lean more into it, I'd like that. But if they try and hang on to some loose realism and they try and explain it in a way, I'm like, no, I just want the Stath to be ramped up.
Much like the Fast movies.
I mean, I haven't seen Fast 10 or Hobbs and Shaw, but I've seen all the other ones, and I think they do get basically better apart from the 8th one. They just kind of steadily.
But they are all superheroes now, essentially. As what you were saying, like they're all just indestructible.
Yeah, I haven't shown them to Megan. At some point, I know Chris wanted for us to like watch them all, but the problem is, I genuinely hate the first. Well, I haven't seen the third one. I just didn't bother. But the first 2, I really didn't. I don't even the first one. I don't even think it's a good film. I think it sucks. And so I watched it. I was like, I know, very controversial.
Breaking Chris's heart.
I know. I'm sorry, Chris, but it's like I just don't care about cars at all. And everyone in that film I find is so unlikable or bad at acting or both. And so I'm just watching these people I don't like acting, air quotes, and then being in cars a lot. I'm like, no. But once you get the bigger actors in Fast and Furious who can act properly and then take the mick out of the fact that the other actors, I like that stuff. But I just think when they are like, let's do peak action films, I think 5, 6, 7. Those kind of ones, it's like, let's just go ham with the action films with The Rock and with Kirk Douglas randomly and the Stath and, all that kind of thing. I'm like, yeah, I like that because it's basically you've got a really cool action film in here, all kind of having to, fit around Vin Diesel's ego. And so I haven't watched the others, but I'm looking forward to hearing you guys talk about it. Well,
yeah, you will do, of course. I mean, just to flash back to Montez for a second. I mean, I don't know. How did you feel about it, Megan? Before I sort of finish that section off.
I don't really remember him that much, to be honest. Like, he had a couple of fights, but I really, there's not really much to say about him. Like, he didn't really do that much for the film itself. He was just a goon, really, wasn't he? He's just kind
of a slow lead into the shark stuff. It's like, well, we need some stuff going on before the shark stuff, and it's like, let's have some human peril of some degree. Yeah, I don't really have an opinion.
No, fair enough. But I bet you do have an opinion on how he meets his end, though, because let's be honest, that is cool. When Stath he kicks him off the jetty. See you later, chum. Straight into a mouth.
Yeah, that was cool.
That's my favourite line of the whole film.
That is marvellous.
I love those one-liners.
Yeah, that was a cool bit. And also it's funny, innit? Because chum is the like stuff that they feed him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what makes it so good. That's the beauty. That's why, like,
that's that wordplay.
I'm pretty sure as soon as that happened, Mike went, "Oh, that's a good pun."
I did. I literally. I said that's a good one. Actually,
a good one.
I was like, that's a good one. I like that. That really hit the spot for me. That's up there, I think, with some of my favourites. Like with.
But you know what? That
Hardy quotes.
But it's because it's British slang, isn't it? It's like London as well, so it's perfect for the Stath.
Yeah.
Chum feels like a real Stath word, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I'd pay a lot of money if I had the Stath call me a chum. Even if he kicked me off a jetty I'd be like, you know what?
Hopefully you won't get eaten.
If I got kicked off a jetty, as long as it's not into a shark mouth, if I got kicked off the jetty by the Stath, he said, see you later, chum, I'd live for that. That'd be sick. Imagine the story, especially if I've got a video of it. That'd be cool. But I bet, 100%. Megan, you have more of an opinion on Pippin than you did with Montez.
I was about to say, that was I was going to say, when you said that he was a bit of a pointless character, I was going to be like, do you know who's not a pointless character? Is Pippin the dog.
Returning from the Meg, obviously.
Yeah, and Pippin's a goddamn badass. He's like trying to bark at the octopus. Pippin's got...
He bites, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Bites the
Pippin
tentacle.
gets him. Go on, Pippin. I was like so excited when we saw that dog again. I was like, Mike, doggy. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that's the dog from the first film. And then she says Pippin. I was like, it is.
That's what you want the Meg 3.
Yeah,
Pippin's Revenge.
spin-off.
Yeah.
And she's got Pippin with like a jetpack and like lasers on her.
No. Pippin's wearing one of those life jackets that's got a fin. So he's pretending to be a shark.
Oh, that's adorable.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that would be great, having Pippin in the next one. The fact that he's trying to bite that octopus.
I reckon if they come out with a third one, because of consistency, they're probably going to put the dog in again.
There's no doubt in my mind. Pippin will be back. 100%.
Yeah. Oh, that woman, that owner though, she's had some rough luck, hasn't she? Wasn't the first one her wedding?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah,
because of the
you're
boat and
right.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, because we have the proposal on this one, don't we?
Yeah.
The guy
They
proposed
all
on the
get
boat.
decimated.
Yeah. Turns
Completely.
around and the octopus has sucked her off the ship,
Yeah.
hasn't he?
Yeah, don't propose on a boat. What?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we love Pippin.
Maybe the message of these movies, actually, you two, is don't get married. It's just, it seems to end badly, doesn't it?
Right, take the ring back.
Take Meg's ring back, yeah. Oh, the journey started with the Meg and it ends with the Meg.
I think you'll be all right there. I think, you're pretty landlocked where you're going, aren't you?
To be fair, I haven't looked into this, so please, audience, don't quote me.
There is water at Disney World.
The thing is,
Okay,
I
good
haven't
point.
heard there's not sharks in Vegas. There could
Sure, there could be.
be.
Absolutely.
I'm not ruling it out.
I reckon while
it's
we're
not
in Vegas,
impossible.
we're going to see at least one. Actually,
Some
we
lone
will because
sharks.
we're going to go to the aquarium,
Ah, I was
Oh,
thinking
well,
that.
there you go.
and they got a big shark area.
So there are sharks in Vegas. So there we go.
So
you know.
Mike just lied to everyone.
I didn't lie. I actually said that no one says there's no sharks in Vegas. I don't know. I can't remember what I said. But we're probably not going to get eaten by a shark in Vegas.
Can I say two
Let's hope
things
not.
that annoyed me about this
Please.
film? I get taken out of things when they're just unrealistic, and when Jason Statham does that thing in his nose with the sinuses so that he can go out. My thing is, his eyes would be stinging. Like, it's the sea. He's swimming around. And I think I had this gripe about the first
pressure
film.
as well, thinking about
But,
it.
like, not even just the pressure. Like, seawater stings. Like, if anyone's had their eyes open in seawater, I can't hold my eyes open in ocean water. It's too salty. It burns. My thing is how can he have his eyes open without at all getting any indication that there's any water in your eyes? Like, I can swim underwater with my eyes open in a swimming pool, in a chlorine pool. But even then, after a while, it gets stingy.
Mm-hmm.
In the ocean, your eyes would be fucked.
He's a Stath, though, isn't he?
I can just say one thing to you. I'm going to have to quote Ju Ming. If anyone can do this, it's you. So,
His
I
eyes
hear
have got
you.
muscles on.
Yeah,
His
I
eyes
hear
have
you.
muscles.
It's the State's eyes, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah, what to do.
They're like
I mean,
Superman's, like bulletproof.
It's I hear you. It ties in perfectly with what Mike said before, though, doesn't it? It's just like, why bother taking 30 seconds to try and explain the sinus thing? Who fucking cares?
I
You've
know.
got, like, dinosaurs underwater. 3 megs are like.
But also,
whatever.
he's under there
Like,
for more than a minute. So, like,
Yeah,
they're like, oh, yeah,
100%.
he could do it for a minute, but he's there for way longer than a minute.
Yeah.
The other thing is, when Mac is in that helicopter crash, there's no way he would have survived.
We saw that and we
We
were like,
saw
oh, he's
the
dead.
helicopter crash and there was no one in the front of it.
Oh, yeah.
And then
yeah.
suddenly he's there and he's like, "Ooh, help me." Like, there's like, it's just not feasible. Like, obviously, I'm glad that he didn't die, but like,
The damage he, like, in that
he
crash,
would have been injured as hell. Like, he has no injuries.
he's just fine.
Yeah, he's
I think,
fine, yeah.
didn't he hurt his arm in the first film?
Don't know. Maybe he
Am I
gets some salt water.
I'm
and some
imagining
cups.
that. Very nice. But, like, we saw the helicopter crash. We're like, oh my god, is he dead? No,
But
I
then
mean,
we,
no, he
we
must
were
have.
like, we didn't see him.
We like, oh, he
so
must
he
have
can't be
jumped
dead.
out. But he must have just like jumped out last minute, and he'll pop up at the end to save everyone and be like, "Oh, I got out
Yeah,
of the
we
helicopter."
thought he was going to be in
But
the
no,
water.
they have to
He's
save
still
him.
trapped in the helicopter.
And you're like, but the whole helicopter thing has been crushed inward, so at least you'd be bruised and pretty hurt. And he just like half passed out when he gets found, and then they just don't even mention an injury.
Yeah, he's fine. They all just have a beer on the beach.
Exactly, yeah. Solves everything.
I don't know why people keep getting in helicopters. I suppose the only way to get a view of the Meg, but I think films have given me a fear of helicopters.
It wasn't the Meg that got the helicopter, was it?
No,
It
it's
was
the
the
octopus,
octopus,
wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it was the octopus, yeah.
But either or. I mean, when I see so many helicopter crashes in films, I think I said this in another podcast, and I was just like, it feels like there's like when you watch a plane crash and when you watch a helicopter crash. I mean, talking like I suppose a jumbo jet, comparison is very different. But I'm just like, once if something hits those blades, you're gone. At least with a plane, if the engines go, you've got wings to loosely steer. But you hit a helicopter, and it's spin, or just plummet.
I'm sure there's an obviously formerly known as Twitter account, which is like exploding helicopter, and it like lists all the best like action movie exploding helicopters. So that's definitely one for you, Mike, to look into.
I mean, I do love watching them in films, to be honest. But I don't like disaster films that much. 2012, Day After Tomorrow's all right, but I just find they're all made by like one guy, aren't they? The guy made Independence Day.
Oh yeah, Roland Emmerich.
Yeah, and I like Independence Day. It's a great movie, but that is great. Day After Tomorrow's pretty good, and the rest of them are just like.
Well, what I'm going to have to do now is when we finish this, just go back onto the internet and just get a refund for my helicopter flight I was getting for you for your wedding present now, aren't I?
To be fair, if someone bought me a helicopter ride gift, I would 100% take it. I mean, I'm scared of quite a few things. I'm scared of being in the open ocean. I've swam with whale sharks. I'm scared of, to a degree, heights, and I've done skydiving. So to be fair, I'm probably just going to make myself do it.
Good for you.
It'd be sick. It would be so cool.
It would be very cool. We keep watching it whenever we watch Hell's Kitchen, and one of the rewards is always a helicopter ride. And it's like,
It'd be so cool.
Yeah.
Not when you're getting attacked by a giant octopus, though.
No, guys. No. Okay, public health announcement. Okay, it's do not get in a helicopter over some water when either dinosaurs, giant sharks, or giant octopus.
When the barrier's been broken, what's the barrier called?
The thermocline.
Thermocline.
Yeah,
that bit's hilarious as well. When they're like, "We've gone down the thermocline. Well, nothing can come back up." What do you mean? That literally happened in the first movie.
That's the whole plot.
What about?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, there's that bit where they're like, "Oh, this breached. It's going to shut in about an hour," and they're like, "Will the Megs be able to get through?" And they were like, "Hopefully not. Only if they follow us." And I'm like, "Well, if it's going to be open for an hour, obviously they're going to come through."
100%. Yeah.
No, it's hilarious, isn't it?
But even though we are picking holes, it's just such a fun movie.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I enjoy it.
Fun. Like, again, I think the first hour is more difficult to watch the second hour, and it is a bit of a slog at points, but they are just kind of building stuff up. But when it really kicks in, I just think it's really fun. It's great. The silliness aside and pointing out rules of this film that don't exist. It's exactly what I'd want from a sequel. I watched the first Meg, and I'm like, ace. We said in the last episode it was absolute classic, and I won't spoil what I'm saying quite yet, but I just think with this one you're like, it just works.
Yeah,
I can't see how you'd watch the Meg 1 and go, I liked that, and then you watch Meg 2 and go, this sucks. Like, I can't see you doing that. But I'm still surprised how low they're both always rated. On IMDb they're both at like 5.5.
Yeah,
and I'm like, but everyone I talk to likes these films. Everyone. And like, who's going to watch a Jason Statham giant shark movie and going, I don't like this, the plot doesn't really make any sense and it really ruins it for me. Like, I know we're complaining about the plot, but I really, really enjoyed this film. I quite high. But like,
as you said, we're nitpicking, but for fun. Like, I don't, all this stuff that I've nitpicked out, I don't care about any of it. Like, I will tell you, I fucking love this movie. I think it's better than the first one. And I appreciate what you're saying. I hear those issues with the start, and they are a little bit slower. But I think because I like the references and what it makes me think of in other movies, I'm into it. But as soon as we get to Fun Island, it is on, isn't it? You get like point of view camera shots for inside the Meg's mouth, which is amazing.
I did say I particularly liked that.
That was like your favorite shot.
I said specific. Like, it's rare for me to like point things like that out, but that scenes that one little like 2-second shot in particular, I was like, I really enjoyed that.
So
and that's who I want to be in the movie. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you want to be an extra in the Meg? Yes, please. Can I be the person from inside the mouth that you can see getting?
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah,
so much fun.
It made me feel like I was at like a theme park and I was going on a ride and I was experiencing it myself.
Because there is a Jaws ride, isn't there, somewhere?
I have no idea.
Or there is, or there was.
That just sort of pootles around a lazy river, and then a shark goes meh. I don't think it
drops. Yeah, I think the shark pops out and then you drop. I think I've been on that, but I don't know if I'm imagining it. Might be a dream. Who knows?
But we spoke in the first one about the guy in the Zorb ball.
Oh yeah.
But this feels like stuff full of all those moments. You got the people on the pedalo, and I just love the squeak. Like, we've all been on a pedalo. That is the exact squeak pedalo's make, and it's like as they're trying to go faster. It's so good, but it's full of all these silly little moments. This section, I think.
I love it when you've got really like intense action scenes and you've got moments of silliness that aren't like someone tripping on a banana peel, but just like moments of just flash insanity just for a second. Like, I mean, when everyone's panicking or something, you see someone running with something crazy, you know, like something really random, or, you know, just little moments of just people in crisis situations doing silly things. And I find, because this film, I think, had it specifically didn't do this, but it's kind of like when the shark attacks, if the characters aren't named, we're not going to make you feel sorry for them. Like the proposal bit, I didn't go, oh no, what a tragedy. I was like, get wrecked. But when it was like someone who was named, I was like, oh, that's, you don't want them. And it's a hard balance, I think, because this film, I feel like, could go too serious and be all about the tragedy. I know we said about the endings a bit like, hey, we're all fine. But I think it kind of fits with the film, because if you go, God, the trauma that we experienced from that. The damage to the Chinese economy, and Fun Island will never be the same. And you just think all these families, think about all the funerals, guys. And you're like, no, let's not go down that road, thank you. I want to watch someone get proposed to on this boat and it just get eaten like a fun-sized Mars bar by a giant shark. I'm up for that. Or the octopus grabbing it and ripping it down. Like all that stuff I'm 100% here for. And then the shark and the octopus fight as well. And it was like, that was a good way to take the big shark out of the area just for a little bit. Like it felt organic rather than the Meg's coming back for another round, but he's going to be about 3 minutes. So we've got time. Instead, it's like, no, there's crazy stuff going on there. So I appreciated Fun Island. I had fun, even though no one in Fun Island had fun, but I did.
And I think it's got a really good geographical sense. One of my bugbears is when I can't really tell where things are in relation to each other. And I know we spoke about this before. And sorry, Megan, I'm going to go there. Return of the Jedi is always the high watermark in that how you know everything. We're on a planet, and we're in space, and we're in a space station, and all of that's been affected by that. And it's all perfectly choreographed. This, again, I understand what the sharks are doing down there and how that relates to the octopus over there and how those guys are on the island with the snappers over there. And I feel like it's all really well marshaled and really well put together.
Yeah, I never felt lost. And you can get, I find, with action scenes, especially when they're heavy on CGI, that it can be very messy. I found that with, like, I like the Venom films, like both of them. The second one is worse, definitely. But I like the Venom films. But in Venom Let There Be Carnage, I like the fun of the buddy comedy, kind of almost romance part of it. The actual Carnage stuff was quite disappointing. The backstory was cool, but the actual fights, because the fights was just a mess of black and red CGI tentacles for ages. And that was in the first film, it was like that. And then the second film was also like that. And I was like, okay, this is the boring parts of the film. But it was so messy. I'm like, I don't even really know what's happening. I don't. And because you've got two characters who are basically indestructible, it doesn't really matter what's happening in these blurry action scenes, because you know the only way they're going to die is by beheading or eating each other or some sort of big thing, like the Superman, Man of Steel, Zod stuff. It's like, oh, they're just punching each other through buildings for ages, and then when one of them wants to kill the other one, then it stops. Whereas with this
that is a great example. Geography of Man of Steel. I haven't got a fucking clue where anyone is and what's going on, and how far they've flown, and why are they now here, and they were in a city a second ago, and sorry, Mike, I stopped in free flow, but
no, but it is. It's true. It's like you go, oh, I got punched through a building, and now I'm in the desert, and now I punch you through the floor, and I'm in the underground. You're like, what is happening? Where are you? It doesn't even matter, because nothing you're being punched through has any impact, and all the punches don't mean anything. And I get salty about Man of Steel, because the first half I think is incredible, and the second half is just wank, so it annoys me. But yeah, whereas I found this film, as you say, all the action and craziness is going on, but you never feel confused as to what's happening, which is really hard to do, I'd say, especially a film where it's CGI monsters fighting things. Yeah.
But we don't approve of the Stath on a jet ski, Megan.
I don't dislike it. It's just too much. Like, there are bits of it I'm like, yeah, it looks cool, but just like I'm very logical minded, I think. So I see things very black and white sometimes, and stuff like that just takes me out of it. Like, like we could be watching a film, I could really enjoy it. One weird thing that will happen in the film will completely change my mind on that film because it's just not logical to me. Jason Statham on the jet ski is not logical to me because some of it is just so over the top. However, I will say I do appreciate that the fact that he was driving the jet ski himself, because the camera angle for that was really cool.
Yeah, the shots where the camera's like mounted.
Because I like watched it and I was like,
he's following someone.
That looks like he's doing it himself. And then I carried on watching it, and I was like, no, he definitely is doing that himself, which I thought was cool.
Did you see any behind-the-scenes stuff of that, Jack?
I did, yeah. So famously, he likes it as much as he can, as he's allowed. And he did, they said he was ragging around on the sea, essentially on the jet ski. And then for the shot when it's like spinning around, he was on basically like he was on the jet ski, but like on a big gimbal and a blue screen. So they were like literally spinning him upside down and roundabout. And that was him actually holding on.
That's
so
cool.
Yeah, and obviously he's confident in water, we know, because of his history and his background in diving and swimming and stuff. So, yeah, I think that really was him doing it.
And the
That's
experience
really
on Expendables as well, where he nearly drowned.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And that was also him riding that massive wave on his jet ski.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't CGI.
That definitely
was a real
CGI,
wave.
Yeah.
I did
They waited 6 months for the right conditions, and then
it was such a big wave
from the shark.
It was absolutely massive. Like, I think even to surf on that would have been challenging at best. Like, to be on a fucking jet ski, I was just like, nah, that's too much. But yeah, no, the shark narrowly missing it, I did exclaim fuck off, because that was just so unrealistic. As cool of a shot as it was just very unrealistic.
Yeah, what you needed is them to say at the start, we've got these special super jet skis that have got better acceleration than anything that's ever existed.
Yeah, well, they
And
do
then
it with
you'd
the
have been like,
exosuit,
all right.
don't they?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
we can smash bricks of this. So why didn't we have like you're right, a superpowered jet ski? Yeah.
I mean, with the weird thing with the mech suits.
But I guess they're just at Fun Island, aren't they? Is
Yeah.
it?
Good
Is that
point,
when?
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it is,
they're not at their station.
Yeah, and it's not like a Black Panther thing where you're like, I got this weird disc thing I can just throw on any car and it becomes a supercar. But I think with the mech suits, what's weird about them is at the start, it's like, they can kick. Is that almost the Dark Knight Rises thing where I've got this thing on my leg where my knee's busted. Now I can kick through a concrete pillar.
Oh god,
And it
that's
was
so
like-
stupid.
And it was like with the mech suits, it's like, look, you can punch through concrete. Look how strong we are. And you're like, oh, you're gonna fight something with it. And you're like, yeah, a little bit at the start. Before we're wandering through luminescent fields, we're gonna punch a couple things, and then not really mention them again. It's like you're not gonna wear one. Well, I'm not gonna watch the Stath punch a giant Meg in a mech suit like in Aliens. No, not really. He's gonna get attacked by a few little things and maybe punches one. And you're like, that's a bit.
You are going to watch him stop a Meg with just his feet, though.
Oh yeah, where it's got all the chains and stuff. He's like holding it
Yeah,
back slightly.
to be fair, it is chained up, but
you're like-
he is holding it back with his feet. As well.
The pressure you're exerting would make no impact. It is genuinely, size-wise, is literally like an ant at a push, like a praying mantis pushing on your finger, and you're like, you can't forcibly push enough weight on me to make any difference of any kind. It should have been him almost kick off it to like push himself up.
Like propel himself away.
Would have made a bit more sense, but yeah, that was a bit silly. But the chain, at least there were chains, and it wasn't just him, because that would have been insanity.
Well, that's part 3, as you wanted, Mike.
I do. I want it to go full ham with part
Shark
3.
surfing maybe in part 3.
A shark surfing on a
So
jet
a
ski.
massive wave making. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or a wave of jet skis
It'll
with
be
sharks on top.
a shark surfing on its own surfboard on a massive wave.
Oh, nice.
While
yeah.
Jason Statham's there, stood on 2 jet skis.
Oh yeah,
That would be so
Water
cool.
skiing.
Yeah.
He's got like straps. He's got like spears in 2 hands.
Oh, I love it.
Oh man, that's it. We're gonna
And
write
him
Meg's right in the Meg.
him and the Meg are both sharing a cigar.
What as in like is the Meg? So is this
Passing it to each other.
So is this Haichi? Is this the good? Is this now
Yeah,
the
yeah,
good
yeah,
Meg?
yeah.
The good Meg is surfing, and Jason Statham is jet ski surfing with 2 jet skis, and they're both. He's sharing, or they're both having their own.
No, they're
cigars?
both sharing the cigar.
How? So that'd be like me trying to smoke like a toenail clipping if I was the Meg
Yeah.
size. Okay, or Jason Statham's got like a giant comedic,
It's like,
a huge cigar the size of his head, and he's like trying to puff on it and then pass it. I think the
yeah.
film that you're talking about goes into absolute madness. You say you don't like weird films, you're like, let's have a shark smoke a cigar.
and then next to them, you've just got Pippin swimming.
Oh
Does
yeah.
Pippin have a cigar, or is
Nah, Pippin, he doesn't smoke.
right?
Is Pippin a girl or a boy? I don't think it really matters, but
I don't
He's
think
got
it
a
matters at
little
all.
bow in his hair.
he
hasn't
does have a bow.
We are calling him he though, but men can
I
wear bows too.
I
Hopefully
think
they
she
get
might be
cancelled.
she. Huh?
Hopefully, they get cancelled for assuming Pippin's gender.
No.
Hopefully not.
Pippin
fine.
feels like a male name. Maybe that's just because of Lord of the Rings. I don't know, but
Yeah. Maybe in the third one they'll have a friend and he'll have Mary. There'll be 2 dogs.
Mary and Pippin.
That'd be nice. That'd be a good little reference. That'd be fun. I didn't know. Did we want to talk about what we want from the third one?
yeah, please do.
Also, have they confirmed a third one, or is it just
They have not. Now, Ben Wheatley has confirmed that he wants to do a third one.
And did he do the first one as well?
No, he didn't. So, like, he's normally known for, like, I don't know if you've seen, like, Kill List or...
I looked up his films. I don't think I've seen any of them.
Yeah, in the air. They're all, like, lo-fi, indie, high-rise.
I've seen Free Fire.
Probably...
I've seen Free Fire with Charlotte Copley. That's a fun one.
Nope. Sorry to interject. Pippin is male.
Oh, you looked on the...
I've looked it up. He's got his own Meg book series Wikipedia.
Fantastic.
On the series fandom website.
Oh, nice, yeah, because there's a Megapedia kind of thing.
Yeah, but yeah, no, Pippin is a boy.
Very cool. But no, I've only seen, I think Free Fire is the only film I've seen. I don't think Megan's seen any of Wheatley's other stuff.
So yeah, he's up for it. I don't know. In none of the promotional material I watched was Jason Statham. Nothing. No behind the scenes, no promotional material. So I don't know how he feels about it. Maybe he's not happy with the finished product, or maybe they didn't get on, or maybe he was just busy, because I mean, I think he had like 3 films out in 2023, so maybe he was already off making Expendables 4 or what, I don't know. But it makes me a little bit wary of his interest in carrying on.
Do you know if it made enough money? Did it make much money?
Yes, it did. It made 490. I'm just double checking my numbers. 397 million. So 400 million.
Is that a profit? Is that after how much they spent on the film, or is that
no? That's total. So yeah, 140 it cost, and it made nearly 400. So 100 million less than the Meg as well.
But that's to be expected, though. I'd say you'd want more people to go see it, but at the end of the day, as cinemas are, it's just like there was going to be a percentage of people who didn't like.
Did the Meg 2 come out around Shark Week again, or was because I know the Meg did? Did they line it up? Did it come out around July, August time?
That would make sense. I don't know.
It's weird. I know with sequels you want more people to go see it, but I think that when you get a film that, I guess because a lot of people probably did see it like on home release.
Yeah, then it came out on the 4th of August, so it probably was around the same time as Shark Week.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I hope they make a third one. I want like.
Go on, yeah.
I definitely want more shark stuff. Obviously, I want Pippin in it and things. I just want them to take it up another level. But I wouldn't want any more. I think if they made a third, but I have a feeling that if they do make a third, it's not going to be very good, because I find the third film in a trilogy, unless it's like if it's a pre-done story, that's different. But when it's like here's one film and then we're making a sequel to the one film and then we're making a sequel to that film, it's quite rare for a third to be actually good. Yeah,
that's true. I mean, I think we discussed it, that the Meg is based on a book. I was wondering if that had. I was going to try and do my own little bit of googling. You just talk, Mike, while Megan and I do some googling.
Okay, easily done.
Like how many books that had, and a cursory Google tells me there's 1, 2, 3, 7 Meg books.
Wow!
So there's plenty of scope for this to carry on.
Does it look like the second one was called The Trench, or
the first one's called The Trench? Weirdly.
Yeah, well, I guess it does make more sense, but I don't know. 7 though, jeez, that's too many. Sorry to the author, I don't want to ruin their livelihood, but I'm like, that's a lot of shark books. So how many books can you write about that?
I don't think this is particularly following, the book plots or anything, but there's plenty of scope there clearly for this to carry on. We've also got the Pippin spin-off.
Yep.
Like Pippin in the city, I guess.
Yeah, and Pippin could sense it. Pippin was growling before he could see the octopus.
Yeah,
he knew.
They need to get Pippin on the team.
They do need to get Pippin on. Can you imagine? They'd be proper set up. They'd already know that the beasties were coming. Because Pippin could sense them.
You'd have DJ level 3 with an Iron Man suit. You'd have Jason Statham, and he's got like super sensitive Wolverine healing. And then you've got Pippin, who's like the ultimate scout, and they fight like the Mega Meg. In Avengers 4. Sorry.
Clearly, Mac is indestructible, so he has to stay on the team.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, he's like Luke Cage. He's just unkillable. His skin cannot be penetrated by anything apart from like diamond. So that'd be good. Yeah, I feel like they're going to have a scene if they make a third one where someone gets eaten by the Meg and blows them up from the inside or cuts them out from the inside. That's probably how they do the fake out of Statham will save everyone at the end.
Yeah, because that's like Hercules, isn't it? I mean, Hercules does that in Hercules.
Yeah, but they do it in so many things. It's pretty much like almost the trope is if there's a giant monster.
Drax and Guardians too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's loads of them. There's quite a few video games to do it as well. Like Gears of War, there's like a whole bit about that. It's
Well,
quite
even
tropey.
Iron Man actually in Avengers, doesn't he? He flies inside the
Oh yeah, I can't remember what they're called.
the big space slug flying whale thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's quite a common thing. I think in Marvel as well. I think there's loads of characters that get eaten by something. I mean, Ant-Man goes inside things, and I mean, there's the horrendous The Boy. Have you seen The Boys series 3?
I've not seen any of it. I've read the comics,
Oh.
so
Okay. There's a bit with a character who's got like a penis thing, and that explodes, and that's pretty grim in The Boys.
a
I regret
penis thing.
I regret saying anything. I regret even bringing it out. That was horrendous. I'm just traumatized by it.
There's a character that can go really tiny, and there's just a horrible scene.
It
I
made
mean,
me feel
most
sick.
of the scenes in The Boys are,
Yeah,
are horrible.
horrible.
Yeah, but you like the show, so you know.
Yeah, this is true.
Yes. Anything you want to see in the Meg 3 aside from Pippin? Do you want more sharks or more other creatures, more octopuses?
I feel like
jellyfish?
you can't. Oh my god, absolutely not! If it's giant jellyfish,
hate
Jesus
jellyfish, don't
Christ,
you?
I do. I hate them. I feel like they can't. They have to. If they're going to make a third one, it has to. It has to have other creatures. Like it. It would just be boring if it's just sharks. Unless there's just like a big mega shark, but then you kind of already had that in the first one, and then in the second one you've got sharks that are already bigger than the original Megs, so you can't. They would need more They would need more beasties, I guess, but it just can't be the same case where they're like, oh, we're gonna go down into the unknown. Oh no, we've broken the shield. Oh no, something bad has come out. Like it's just otherwise it's just gonna be the same film again.
I feel like what's going to happen is Haichi's going to go off. I think they loosely mentioned
Yeah, it'll be something to do with
Well, they
they said that they didn't know if she was pregnant.
So I think it'll probably go off, hatch a group of Megs, and then that'll probably a few years will pass. They'll probably no, the Megs are all calm and they're okay, and then there'll be like an earthquake or a volcano explode, and that'll disrupt the Megs, and the government want to go in and kill them all, and then Statham will be like, actually, Statham and the brother of the uncle of Mei Ying, whose name escapes me again. Juming, and they just are like, no. We don't want to kill them. There's a reason they've done this. They've been fine this whole time. What's caused the Megs to get angry? And they'll go in there and then they'll find another beast that's actually caused the volcano to erupt, and it will be something like that.
Or the sharks will be misunderstood and they'll be on like those people's side, because if Haichi is this is all hypothetical, but like if Haichi were pregnant, I'm imagining it kind of like is it Aragog in Harry Potter? Yeah, like Aragog and all of his like babies.
Yeah,
where he's like, oh, we're friends of Hagrid.
Yeah,
like, do you know what I mean? Like, they go into the water, and then those Megs wouldn't attack them because they're friends of Juming.
Yeah.
And then they help the group defeat whatever the big bad is.
Yeah,
that's what I would see. That for me, that's the logical next step, because then the Megs aren't the villain. They're like being used as kind of like a...
That is normally with action films, that's the trope, isn't it? It
Yeah.
happens in Fast and Furious every next film, which is
Yeah.
the villain becomes the goodie, because like, this is the baddest person we've ever fought. Well, we need someone who's even badder on our side. And then you meet them and they go, oh yeah, you know, that's
It's like
those people I killed. Yeah, let's just forget about that. I'm a good guy now. Let's
But
make
it's that
jokes.
saying, isn't it? The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah. I mean, you haven't seen the Fast and Furious films, so you're like, this person is like murdering innocent people who are unarmed. The next film, they're like, hey bud, how's it going? You're cool.
Come for a barbecue.
Yeah.
Have a Corona.
Yeah, chill out with a bud. You're part of the family now. So that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, we had it with, I haven't seen it yet, but Kong times Godzilla this year, didn't we? Like, they were enemies and now they're friends and they're teaming up. Yeah, it happens all the time. You're right. So it would have to be like Meg X Stath. Like Meg 3 Heart.
Jonas Journey.
Heart Jonas or something. I don't know.
Well, it takes like a bite out of something, and the bite is like a love heart shape.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bound to be some sort of team up. I mean, I guess the way of writing around the thermocline stuff could be that something else came out in this film, couldn't it? But they just don't discover it straight away. As you said, it swims off and hides somewhere, and then 2 years later, oh, this thing also got out of the thermocline at the same time. But I do wonder what that would be, because a big octopus harkening back to the Kraken and stuff makes sense, and big sharks is obviously something everyone's theorized as, you know, existed back in history. I wonder what is the next scariest or
Humans.
Well, quite, yeah.
People.
What's the next like sea beast?
Yeah, I mean, I think jellyfish are the most terrifying because they're so almost not alive. But they wouldn't be a jellyfish coming towards you. You don't have the same fear as a shark coming at you. It's just like what are these floating,
bobbing along,
limpy things coming at you? You know, so Yeah, I don't know.
Would it be like piranhas? You mentioned piranhas earlier. Would it be like a
Yeah, I did think
like prehistoric piranhas?
when some of the things were attacking them in the bioluminescence, I was like, I wonder if they're a sea, because piranhas, I think, they're from rivers and things. I think they're freshwater.
They're freshwater.
So I think
because they're in the Amazon River.
Yeah, so I think that it would be like, oh, there's these things. What are they? Well, the ancestors that split off, and one tree went to piranhas. This one's much worse, and it's like giant piranhas from the Mariana Trench underneath there. I guess.
Yeah, like snappers can go on land and sea. Then flying piranhas. Fuck it.
Well, there's the film, isn't there? There's one of the piranha films where they are.
That's James Cameron
I was going to say
directed
James
it.
Cameron's first film, wasn't
Yeah,
it? Like,
yeah.
I haven't seen it, but I've seen because they got those wings like flying fish, haven't they? Yeah, good old piranha.
As long as we get something as cool as, which I think, feels like we're cycling towards the end, but we haven't mentioned the final death of the last Meg, have we? When the Stath is on the rocks and he's got the helicopter rotor.
That's very.
It is really
Come
cool.
on, you ugly bastard! And he stabs it through the head. That's got to be one of his most badass moments in all of his filmography, I think.
It was incredible.
It was a cool scene.
Yeah,
but again, there is that little bit of logic for you, Megan, where he's propped it against the rock, so he's not holding the rotor because he can't.
Yeah,
because he can barely lift it, can he?
Yeah, I appreciated that.
Yeah,
I did notice that because if he had just stood there with it, I would have been like he would have been pushed into the water.
used it like a sword or something.
Yeah, but no, he just lets gravity do its thing, doesn't he?
And there is resistance as well. The shark doesn't just go boom, boom. It's like
you can see
and
the
it's
thing.
Like, and it's like someone has clearly thought about this.
Yeah, it's still sort of trying to get him, isn't it? And then he wiggles it a bit and it slides down a bit more, and
the fact it's so heavy as well, and he's like proper struggling to carry it, and he doesn't carry it really far. It's not like he lifts it up over his head and in like a really easy way. He just walks. You see the struggle, you see the difficulty there, and as you guys said, like the way he wedges it in is logical, and it felt quite satisfying because it was like this is the badass Stath stuff we want. We've seen, a shark taken out by an octopus, a couple of ones blown up, a few other cool things, but then the one Meg, the big one, is just like It's very cool. It was a very cool way to end, I found.
Whether this film is a classic Stath film, we'll discuss in a minute, but I think that is a classic Stath sort of moment.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I will
Megan.
say, no, you're all right. I will say I like the facial, like how they've done the faces of the Megs to show that they've got all of the like war wounds over the years and like it shows how old they are because they've got all of these like scars from like just being sharks.
It adds a lot of texture and a lot of like shark. When you see old sharks, you can a lot of the time when you see people like, oh, this is one of the oldest great white sharks I've ever seen. They normally do have a lot of scratches because they fight a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
I thought that was cool.
yeah, agreed. Anything else either of you want to mention? Anything we've missed? We think?
No, I don't. I think we've covered pretty much everything apart from the final sort of nails in it. But yeah. Very good with the propeller thing. Forgot about that.
All right. Couple of letterbox reviews.
Let's do it.
I'll mention it right here at the top. What is going to be disappointing for the last few episodes is we have no Lucia makers. Yeah.
He's been on the whole journey.
He's finished his run. So he has rated the Meg 2 and Expendables 4 and Beekeeper, but he has no official review for them. He's clearly given up at this point. I'm ploughing on, so I'm going to take the title. But unfortunately, so we've lost his review, sadly.
That is a shame. He's a veteran.
He is. What I'll do is I'll read a slightly longer one from somebody, to make up for that.
Do it.
So this is from Akira Kurojawa. See you later, chum. When I search for Meg 2 on letterboxd, why are the top two results Despicable Me and Despicable Me 2? Why is the Meg barely in the top 3 results? Why is Meg 2 The Trench not even in the top 5? I need answers, people, but not as badly as I need answers to my next question. Did we all watch the same movie? Because this thing is magnificently cheesy. I see so many people calling Meg 2 boring or insufferable or not enough Megs, completely ignoring that every second of this ridiculous, gloriously idiotic, stupid fest seems to bring some new moronic delight to the table. Quite as a sentence, wasn't it? You could see I was struggling now. Dinosaurs get eaten by dinosaurs, they get eaten by a megalodon. There's always a bigger fish, Mike. Jason Statham jousts 3 giant sharks on a jet ski. That's for you, Megan. Some random, evil, unkillable Superman named Montez keeps escaping certain death in increasingly unbelievable ways so he can satiate his bloodlust for revenge against our hero. Why? Something, poorly explained, evil underwater mining operation. I unironically loved every moment of this movie. Bonus points for throwing an actual Kraken into the mix. Extra bonus points because I get the sense that this movie knows exactly what it's doing. This is Killer Clowns from Outer Space levels of self-aware camp. I eagerly await the next outing. Meg 3, People 0.
Very nice. That would actually be quite a cool name for the third Meg film.
Yeah, and in place of Lou, that feels like a very Lou-ish review.
I agree.
And hopefully you got my Phantom Menace.
I did, yeah. Good Qui-Gon reference. You know, I love a bit of Qui-Gon as well. Who doesn't?
Hey, I tell you what, I forgot to mention the other day. This is totally not for the podcast, but I'm going to say it right here, right now, as we're recording anyway. Every day, like Emma and I in this little battle, we're playing these games, doing like Wordle, and we're doing like connections and all these other little things. One of them is like called the spelling bee, where you've got like certain letters, you've got to make words out of it. And
I do that with my tutor group sometimes.
Oh, fantastic! And I made Qui-Gon, and it wouldn't let me have it. It was saying it wasn't a word. I mean, how disgraceful!
That is upsetting.
I know, so rude, isn't it?
Write a letter of complaint.
I guess it's a proper noun, right? So. Daryl says, The Meg 2 The Trench is utter tripe. The first hour is so brain-numbingly boring. The story is stupid, misguided, and dumb. Therefore, it should have made an attempt to make it entertaining, but fails miserably. The film picks up a bit towards the end, but it was too late, as I'd lost interest by then. Ben Wheatley will want to forget about this in a hurry. What a horror show.
I feel like as soon as the person used the word tripe in a review of the Meg 2, I'm just like, I don't care anything else you're going to say, because that word doesn't fit with the Meg 2, or Meg 2.
Yeah.
It's tripe. No, you're probably just a bit of a dick, to be honest. There's no plot in this film. Have you seen the first one? Do you know what the film plot is? It's a giant extinct shark eating people. What do you mean? It's tripe. Ridiculous. Don't like that. Don't agree with you, sir.
And obviously proved to be wrong, because we know Ben Wheatley wants to come back. So
yeah, double wrong.
All right, last one. Dan Burden 1138. The reactions to this have been super negative. It's not a great movie or anything like that. It's not doing anything different, and it cribs plenty from various Jurassic Park entries and the superb but underrated Underwater with Kristen Stewart. But it is fun, and I had a blast watching it. Lots of the complaints seem to hang on there being a lack of shark action, but there was plenty for me, and the action was decent too. It's Statham being always dependable, fighting giant sharks and a giant octopus this time. It delivered exactly what I wanted it to.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's much, this isn't the best film ever by any stretch, but I can't. I know that Max often says it when reviewing some of the films as well, but I'm just like, of all the films to be critical of, how can you genuinely be critical of a film which is a sequel to a giant shark movie?
I mean, it's not a serious movie. If you're going in with the idea that it's going to be a serious movie, then you've already set yourself up for failure, haven't you, really?
Yeah, it's like,
you're going to watch this film knowing full well what kind of movie this is.
Well, you watch the trailer and you've got, Jason Statham jet skiing out of the way of a giant shark, and you're like, what? You think this is going to be a genuine, real, horror film of sharks? This isn't going to be The Shallows.
No.
This is, Deep Blue Sea. That's the one with Samuel L. Jackson. I'd love Samuel L. Jackson to make a cameo in the third one, actually. And almost hit, I know he spoiler alert, he died in Deep Blue Sea, but, he did, didn't he?
He did. Famously, he does the big speech, and then
I was going to say that
leaps out the tank behind him. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, so big spoiler.
Yeah. I mean, Samuel Jackson dies in many films, so you'll soon forget. But
I don't think it's a film that I'm going to be watching anytime soon.
It's fun, but yeah, it's just like if you want a dumb, fun shark movie, watch The Meg. And if you want a slightly more serious one, watch Jaws. And it's like I haven't seen that many others because I'm like, I don't really fancy watching shark movies that often. And these two are kind of, you got the serious one, you got the silly one.
Totally fair. So, in his filmography, as you said, Mike, I think you rated The Meg as a classic.
Yep.
So, where are we for this one? Are we maintaining that run, or is it, Megan, I know you love these categories, worth catching or completist only?
It's tough because I'm torn between classic and worth catching.
I think it's worth catching. I personally prefer the first film.
Yeah.
But I do think there are more Statham moments in the second one.
Yeah.
But if I was going to choose to watch one of them, I would watch the first one. So I think for me, this is worth catching as opposed to a classic.
I think the first one is probably a better film as a film. But as a giant shark Statham film, I think the second one's better. Again, it's got more ridiculous over-the-top moments, which if that's what you're kind of there for, that's what's better. I think I'm going to say worth catching on the basis it's a sequel. And I think the way I've been trying to rate my Statham things, like when I rated Romeo and Juliet a classic, it's not because the film's a classic, it's because you don't get any... Jason Statham hasn't done any voiceover work. Major voiceover work, at least, aside from that. And like with... The Meg, it was like, this is Statham ranked up to a T. You need to see us if you love the Stath. And I just think the way I've kind of conceptualized what deems a Statham film in the Back to Filmography, it's a classic, is a Statham performance that is either incredible or unique. And I think that most of the guests have adhered to that. You know, there's probably a collection of the 44 odd films that you've done. I imagine there's 10 to 15 that are classics. And I suspect that, like, they're almost the pinnacle parts of his career. Here's, you know, Spy. Here's the early days of him, you know, Lock, Stock and Snatch. Like, it's kind of the big moments of the Stath. And I think The Meg is a really big moment. But I think that if you're doing the absolute must-watches for the Stath, if you've seen The Meg, you can skip this one if that's just what you want. But if you like The Meg, you definitely need to watch this one. Do you know what I mean? So I think I'm going to say worth catching on that basis too.
I hear. Good arguments for me both, I think. Backed up by nobody could see it, but Mike doing a pinnacle, but of course it also looks like a shark fin.
I'm very emotive with my hands.
What would you class it as?
So yeah, I mean, I think I hear all those arguments and I agree with you, but I do prefer this over the first one. However, I think, as you just expressed it, Mike, it's perfectly sound. Like, this isn't advancing his career in any way. It didn't make as much money financially. Like, you can consider that as being an important part of his career as well. So actually the first one is more important on his CV than this one. So I think it is a notch down. I think this probably is a worth catching, even though as an individual film, I would choose to watch this one over the first one.
I think the first film is probably better, but I think if I was going to go, shall I watch a giant shark film? I would probably choose this one, just because if I was in that vibe, I'm like the silly over the topness. I'd probably skip the parts of the early bit. I don't actually. I say I would. I never do that with films. I just watch the whole thing. But I think that just the second half of this film, the second half of the first Meg film, this is just ramped up, and that's what I want. Yeah, I do. I do like it, but it's also his relationship with Mei Ying, and this is really good, and I like that element. But he has done other films that he's got the Lone Wolf and Cub kind of thing. So
yeah. All true. All right. So as we know, we keep talking about this is the final run-in. This is going to come out on the 8th of July. What is going on in the world of Mike and Megan at that point?
Anything you want to say you're doing?
On the 8th of July?
No, I mean...
around that time, not specifically on that day.
You have to tell people what you're doing.
I was like, I don't know what I'm doing on the 8th of July.
Well, I'm obviously going to wax lyrical my rubbish about what I've generally been doing and etc. But I want to let you go first.
Well, what have I been doing?
Just ask.
I don't know. Podcasting wise, I have no idea because I'm ad hoc. I just jump in on people's.
Will we have a Disney discussions around then, or like
Disney discussions?
We've got a
recording around it.
Then. I don't know if it will be released in July or August, but we do. I think we do have.
Well, funnily enough, on the 9th of July is when we're next recording Disney discussions.
Wow,
there you go.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, so we'll be doing that. Which...
In my life, I'll be in the lead up to the musical that I'm in. That's where I'll be at.
Oh, great.
So... Yeah, theatre performance number 2.
Yep.
There'll be another. So Megan and I have been doing monthly M&M for the last few months. So all Patreon supporters get access to it a month early. But essentially, each month now, I'm releasing episodes of Clone Wars Conversations where me, Dave, and Math go through the Clone Wars, and we're making episodes. We're going deeper into certain episodes of the Clone Wars, so we have more time to talk about them. Then also every month I'm doing monthly M&M with Megan, where we talk about basically a subject for like half an hour or so about that people send in. And we spoke about pantomimes and Megan's experience there. So that was good fun. And also I'll be in the midst, and you and I by then, Jack, should have a recording done of The Acolyte, which I'm doing weekly discussion shows of that. So by the time this comes out, we'll be nearing the end of The Acolyte, but weekly discussion shows that I've been doing. And then just other usual genuine chit-chat stuff, lots of interviews, lots of conversations. I recorded one with Tony yesterday because this podcast is my 5th podcast in the last week.
Yes.
And I've got another one in 2 days. So, I've been doing a lot of podcasts, a lot of stuff going on. But yeah, just find me on at Genuine Chit Chat. Listen to Genuine Chit Chat, done lots of cool episodes. And there's one I did with someone with dissociative identity disorder that I've been getting a lot of positive feedback on. So check out my episode with Lena that was released sort of early June, I think it was. What about yourself, Jack?
Well, obviously I'll be 2 away from announcing who my next subject will be, but we'll leave that there for now.
Yeah, won't spoil that. Not that I know.
Not that you know.
Well, thank you so much for having us on, Jack. It's always a delight. It's sad to see the run of the Stath come to an end, and I'm sure that you're gonna have like a wrap up episode, or at the end of the last episode you'll loosely talk about. But I'm excited for more Stath films, and if there is a third Meg, we do like another special and come back for it.
Oh, definitely, yeah. So I think the idea would be, like Tony and I were talking about that as well, that I won't do it for cinema release because this show's never been about that, really. It's not been about trying to get clicks or anything like that. It's just been the love of it. So yeah, I would probably wait until it was available on streaming or DVD, and then just do it as a bonus episode at that point.
Amazing
so
stuff.
if we get Meg 3 Pippin's Revenge, I'll be tapping you both up to come on.
Thanks, Jack. It's always a delight chatting with you in the podmosphere. Thanks for having us on, reserving Meg for Meg. And I'm very eagerly awaiting the final, kind of the finale of the Stath episodes, and then where you go from there.
100%.
And I'll talk to you in 2 weeks for Acolyte anyway, but
great, of course.
just over.
Yeah. All right. Thank you both. Thank you, everyone, for listening, by taking in this journey with me through the Stath filmography. That was Meg 2, The Trench. Next up in a fortnight, Max will return to the show to target the Expendables in the penultimate episode of Season 1, before the Stath takes his bow in The Beekeeper, for anyone that is watching along. I'm Jack's Musings, that's JACS, and you can find me on X where I'm most active. You can also contact the show directly on X or Instagram under the name Back to the Filmog. Make sure you use the hashtag #FollowTheFilmography. I'm also a proud member of the Comics in Motion family, a super place full of the world's greatest people, dedicated to bringing you podcasts on a variety of geeky topics. So please make sure you take the time to search, subscribe, and rate our shows whenever and wherever you listen. Until next time, be excellent to each other and make sure you take the time to treat yourself too. I am Jack signing off. Yippee-ki-yay, movie lovers. Cut.